are going to, I'll share this with them. And so, yeah, let me get started. So, hey everyone, welcome. My name is John. I'm the co-founder of Brickwork, and I just wanted to share how we're helping realtors understand Senate Bill 9 and how it could grow your business next year. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just give an introduction quickly to Brickwork. So this is actually our live pitch deck, but I think it's really easy way to communicate what we do. So we're a prop tech startup. We've been around 3 years. We basically help you comprehend city zoning to build apartments, houses, and ADUs. The obvious problem here being that we are in the middle of a housing crisis. California has a shortage of about 900,000 affordable units. I think that number has kind of increased, but the US overall, according to Freddie Mac, is short 3.8 million housing units, and that fluctuates from anywhere from 3.8 to 5 million. The barrier of entry, I'm sure a lot of you that have dealt with or tried to work with the city planning departments and building and safety, is that a lot of these zoning laws are outdated. They were passed years ago for one intent or purpose, and it's not relevant to what we need, which is more density in cities. So it's difficult to understand and it's time consuming. And then the last piece is with COVID and the global supply chain crisis, labor shortage, increased cost to build, and which is creating a bottleneck in an already exasperated market. So who are we? We're basically land use experts. My partner, Alex Irvine, runs Irvine & Associates. It's a land use consulting firm in downtown Los Angeles. He's currently helping to entitle and permit multifamily development all over the city of Los Angeles. So that's where our data, our insight comes from. You're just working with ex-city planners who already advise multifamily developers, and we came up with Brickwork to be a tool, a quick tool for both real estate brokers, agents, and also now developers use us as well. So we are providing these reports for urban infill, and commercial brokers. But the opportunity here is to develop middle market housing. So what we've come to realize when SB9 passed is that how much of a radical housing bill it is. For R1 single family zoning, you can now build 4 units on them that are qualified. And there's 6 million that are qualified in California. But of course, a lot of the qualified, homes are in rural areas. So, the Turner Center at Berkeley identified 410,000 of them, which are market feasible. And what they determine market feasibility by is that it's in neighborhoods with, rents that are higher than normal, and also price per square foot. The valuations of these properties are high. So again, anything in the west side of Los Angeles, Santa Monica, you go up and down the coast, these neighborhoods are, they pencil for a developer, and they are what that figure is coming up with. If you go up and down the state of California, in those neighborhoods, there's 410,000 of these properties that are market feasible. So there is an opportunity here to utilize Senate Bill 9 and ADU. That's what we've identified. And so just quickly, the build to rent strategy right now, institutions, I'm talking about the Blackstones, the Starwood Capital, these institutions are poised to invest. I should change that out, not spend, but invest $1 trillion in the next 7 years. Well, what are they going to be buying? Single family properties to become rental properties. That's their, that's where they want to, that's where they're trying to head to. Currently, they control 5% of the market. So this figure in the middle, single family rentals in the US are mostly owned by individuals, which is true. So they control or own 5%, and 95% is owned by individuals. And the US is roughly made up of about 20 million single family homes, right? By 2030, they want to increase that from 5% to 40%. So it's gonna be a $1 trillion spent to get to that figure. So this presents opportunities for the 410,000 that are market feasible, obviously the realtors nationwide or even in California that could utilize this. But I kind of want to jump into one more slide here. It's sorry, I have to switch between slides, but so this one is essentially, or sorry, I grabbed the wrong one. This one is, so I just wanted to highlight for agents, we are a useful resource for realtors and agents. This was a deal that was closed during the pandemic, actually. And both James Doherty is a Brickwork user, and so's Lori Lustig Bauer, who is the listing agent. They closed this deal, I believe, June of 2020, in the height of the pandemic. This property was sold for $35 million. And the buyer ended up being a developer that wanted to, they're redeveloping this as flex studio space so that, it could be rented out to Apple and Netflix and Hulu and everybody else. But James came to us to provide the insight on what can be done on this property. And it was also validated on the listing side because both are users. So I just want to always highlight this on any sort of presentation, is that we're just not here to create reports that aren't useful for brokers. No, we want to be useful. We want to be a value add to real estate agents to help you close deals. Okay, so that's that. And then let me just go through what is Senate Bill 9. So this is actually this Los Angeles City Planning presentation deck about the new bills that passed. And so I wanted to quickly go over overarching view of SB9, and I'm going to open it up for questions afterwards. So on the surface, it allows for a by right development of 2 units within a single family residential zone, allows by right approval of a parcel map or urban lot split. So essentially, there are requirements up and down as far as, the lot split must be 40% of the size of the lot prior to it. Minimum lot size is 1,200 square feet. So there's all these requirements that we provide and screen for, but a misconception, and the reason why a lot of people don't understand this is people go, oh, it's the owner-occupied lot split law, right? But it's not. If you split a lot, of course, owner occupancy is required. And so the applicant has to sign a covenant with the city saying, look, I'm going to live in one of the units for 3 years. But the opportunity I'm going to present to you guys here is there's a way to go around that. And as investors, developers, they could build SB9 and ADU. So that's really powerful. It's not well known. And this is the opportunity for agents and brokers to go ahead and create business. So anyways, the quick lot split is that LA City does allow a flag lot. A lot of the other municipalities and cities don't allow this, but LA does. So LA is definitely leading the way in all of California in what is allowed, and they're opening the doors to utilize SB9 and ADU. They're very open to creating as minimal of a flag lot so that it makes sense, knowing that all parcel dimensions, lots, they all look different. They're all different sizes. They're all different shapes. But the city of LA is definitely open to trying to get these approved. So we provide SB9 reports. This is a sample report here. We designed these in Revit. So Revit is an architectural software that we plug in the parcel or the lot dimensions, and we calculate what's buildable. So we give you a few scenarios. So if you go in here right now, this one was a unique one. And the reason why I want to present this to you is because this is an actual requested lot. And it was 2 lots that were tied. So using SB9, you could untie lots as well. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to go back, untie the lot, then the north lot, they wanted to split and build 2 single families, 1,500 square feet each. And then the bottom lot, they wanted to utilize as a duplex and an ADU. So as you can see, you have 2 1,500 square foot single family homes that are on their own parcel that you could sell each individually on the north part of this lot. And on the southern part, you could build a 3,000 square foot duplex and an ADU. If it was much a bigger lot here, or if this was combined, of course, you can build 2 ADUs. Now, that's the kind of secret here, is that City of Los Angeles allows investors to purchase R1 qualified properties like this, not have to split the lot. I know this is an example of splitting, but let me go through this other example. Is they still wanted to untie the lots, but let's just assume this one lot is what your listing is, or your potential investor, developer, buyer is looking to purchase. You can build an investment purpose without splitting the lot. Build a duplex by right, because that's 2 units. And then the city of LA allows you to then build ADUs. But because it's a duplex, you're utilizing the multifamily ADU law. So that's what unlocks 2 ADUs versus 1 ADU, and you could build 2. So that's really how we're seeing an opportunity to build business for. So again, I have to highlight this: investment purpose, non-lot split. You don't have to sign a covenant with the city of LA. So your clients that are investors and developers can now, with your help, seek out qualified lots and start to determine, hey, do I want to build a duplex and 2 ADUs in Silver Lake, near Culver City, the west side of LA, Santa Monica? And then, so let me point out, the cities that you're able to do this is in the city of Los Angeles. So not the county, not all the unincorporated cities that represent or are part of the county. It's the city of Los Angeles, the city of Santa Monica. Ventura County allows this. So Thousand Oaks and all the different cities with Ventura, obviously, allowed this as well. And then one other city, I know that's a little bit random, but Encinitas, which is kind of like the coastal town north of San Diego, allows this as well. So we're tracking this because the pushback has been, initially the cities were against SB9, right? Torrance, Redondo Beach, Manhattan Beach, Pasadena, all of these cities were vehemently against SB9. And there's lawsuits going on where the cities are trying to sue the state is suing the cities, but I bet you the states will win. Why? Is because the way SB9 law was written, they learned from ADU law. Remember, when ADU law passed back in 2016, it wasn't effective. Why? Is because all the cities were then imposing their requirements. Oh, you can't build here. Minimum is this. Minimum lot is this. Setbacks are this. So they created barriers to building ADU. So it took years and years of iterations of the ADU law from the state to give it enough teeth to then, not allow cities to get in the way. So that's kind of how long it took ADU to become prevalent. And now everyone's doing an ADU, but it took 6 years. SB9, knowing that, they put enough teeth in the law so that it is a ministerial by right approval, just like ADU. So even though you go into a lot and you split it, or you want to build a duplex and 2 ADUs, either of those 2 instances are done without a CEQA environmental survey report and without a public hearing. So that's powerful. I mean, before this SB9 law, the only way you could split a single family lot was a small lot subdivision. But small lot subdivisions were not effective, especially if you're in the coastal commission, right? They were almost non-existent. They were at a approval rate less than 20%, because there's a public hearing. And once you take all the necessary steps to split that lot, you get to the public hearing and they basically reject your approval, or they add conditions to it where then it's not feasible. So anyways, SB9, you basically go through planning department. They'll just confirm that it's qualified and what you're proposing is allowed, which is about 2 weeks, and then you go right into plan check. That's the really powerful part about SB9. Okay, so that's it for my presentation. I really wanted more of a Q&A, and so I'll continue to do these. I know it's not falling in everyone's schedule and calendar, and I don't want to take too much time here for the few agents that have joined us, but I will make this more of a weekly kind of presentation, hoping to get more agents that really want to understand this and then how to utilize. So the last part of this is how to utilize. So what we've done is offered discounted SB9 reports and free reports to listing agents, and we've identified a few lot sizes and qualified properties, and we sent them the SB9 report that I just shared with you. How does that help? Because now you're opening up your buyer pool during this downturn to either adventurous homeowners, empty nesters that like the area, like the big lot, and will be open to redeveloping. Maybe it's not a full demo scrape opportunity. Maybe it's, oh, you know what? I'll live in the house, but there's all this backyard, and why don't we build a big single family or a duplex? Either of those two fall under SB9. So that is a new buyer pool you're opening up your listing to. The second thing is just the investors. We personally have spoken to so many developers and investors, and they all like this strategy. I would say a lot of them are hesitant because of their track record with trying to get things approved with the city, and that this is such a new bill. What if there's ways for the city to not say yes to this or what have you? So there is a bit of hesitancy on that part, but I'm telling you, as more time goes by, more permits are getting pulled from the city of LA and other cities, that will quickly turn into, I really think it's going to come to head next year. So anyways, that's how you can then reach out to your pool of investors or developers, or even market to new ones who are already building in the 2 to 4 unit space that could want to utilize this strategy to start building these out. The other part is we're also talking with multifamily developers, the developers that are building 150 unit plus. They also love this strategy. Why? Because they're building product. Granted, it's an apartment or mixed use project, but the mechanics are same. There are longer time periods of getting them entitled, permitted, built. You're looking at 2, 3 year, 4 year projects that their capital is tied up, whether it's for their LPs or themselves. So, it's a long project term for 150 units, but they view this opportunity as very quick, 4 units here, 8 units here, 12, and that's a quicker cycling of their capital. Purchase the property, start to getting built on that. The build times we've estimated for this is anywhere right around 14 to 15 months. Obviously, the variable being you have to get through a plan check quickly. You can't have, constant conditions being added to plan check for you to satisfy. But if you are able to efficiently go through the process and the build, it's about 14 months. So obviously much faster, and you could do more of these projects because there's less capital required than the amount of capital in an apartment. So we're getting really good feedback from multifamily developers, obviously the 2 to 4 unit space developers, and these are the people that are actively looking during a downturn. When these listings are starting to drop prices, they know they're going to get really good deals, and what better perfect storm is there when R1 properties that are SB9 qualified are dropping their prices, while the developers can pick those up at a discount and put 4 units on them as rentals. So anyways, that's the opportunity. I hope we want to help more agents and realtors use our reports and this information to create deal flow and pipeline for next year. So that's it. Okay, so with that, I'll leave it up for any questions. Jagger or Jonathan, if you want to kind of unmute and ask questions, this is the time.
Yeah, I have one, John. It's Jagger. And you may have said this, so pardon, but just so I understand, so like, let's just say you take a standard lot, R1 zone lot in the city of Los Angeles, and then you do the subdivision. So you had a single family house, and now you do 2 units on one lot and then 2 units on another lot.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay,
yes.
so I'm right so far. So now let's just say this is an owner occupier, so that that person has to live in one of the units for 3 years.
Yeah.
During that 3 year period, can they sell the back parcel that
Yes.
has, they
Yes.
can.
Yes.
But so I heard this the other day, which I believe to be false. They can't so like they're living on that front parcel, the back parcel that has an additional 2 units, they can't sell those 2 units off individually though.
Right. Well,
Right.
there is some discussions that I've had with developers that are trying to figure out how can they utilize SB9 and converting them into a TIC
Okay.
structure, right? So tenants in common doesn't sell by the parcel; it sells by the LLC, right? The percentage
Mhm.
or
Right.
so there is a workaround that some developers are trying to utilize a tick to get around that rule. So I would say I will kind of follow back up with that developer that I talked to and see if they've already established a tick and if they have a project kind of in the pipeline. If they do, I could share that with you later. So
Okay.
that could be a workaround. But yeah, like that was a great question. I think that's why you saw that one SB9 report that I shared or sample report. That's
Mhm.
actually a lot where they wanted to sell off the two single family homes at the untie the two lots, do the lot split, sell off the two, and then obviously the lot in the bottom they would keep as a rental. So there are some ways around the usual rules that are tied to lot splits, what you can and can't sell, and the owner occupancy requirement.
Okay. And so one of those ways to get around is like to get around basically having to live there for 3 years. You're saying that is a possibility.
Yes, yes, and even that, like, look, I'm it, there's a lot of gray area
Yeah.
regarding that, right? Like even if you look at the letter of the law of additions and renovations, how many of them aren't permitted or to code? You know, all around.
Right.
There's so many, and there's no, So I'm not trying to say that there's just just do it and hope that you're not going to get anyone to audit you or what have you. But what I'm saying is that right now they determined or they weren't more detailed in the intention of owner occupancy. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? So
Yeah,
now,
it does.
yeah. So how do they delineate what that intention is pre and post what you did? So
Right.
I'll leave it at that. I'll
It's a
just
it's a slippery slope, right? Because you have a single family house and you buy it and you potentially have kids. You never think that the house on the right and the left of you could get knocked down, 4 units could go up, and the developer could sell it off.
right.
Right. I mean, so that's the risk to all of our clients, especially in the non-coastal areas. And just to be clear, I know you've been speaking about the city of Los Angeles, but it does apply to non-coastal areas of like Manhattan Beach as an example, correct?
Yes. The
Yeah.
only warning I would throw out there is because I actually I'm very optimistic that a lot of these Manhattan Beach and other cities that were really restrictive will follow LA suit. Eventually, that's always the case, right? Most of these cities model their planning bonus programs after LA. Okay. So I'm just throwing that out there. But as of now, Manhattan Beach, all the other cities limit the size of each SB9 unit to 800 square feet. That is not feasible. If you build an 800 square foot single family, 1600 square foot duplex, then that falls into the ADU realm. In LA City, I don't know if you saw that, that was a 3,000 square foot duplex. There's
Mhm.
lots that allow 4,000 square feet, 5,000 square feet duplexes, and you could build 1,000 square foot ADUs on there. So imagine a lot in LA City, you could densify at 7,000 square feet of buildable, right?
Right.
It's amazing. So that's why where I'm doing this presentation, and every agent that I talk to, I'm telling them focus on the city of LA, city of
Mhm.
Santa Monica, and Ventura County for now,
Right.
because they don't cap the size of the unit. It falls back to the original zoning for the city of LA. But why we're helpful is because there's a lot of variations of R1 zoning in the city of LA, right? That's number one. There's all varying degrees of floor area height, setbacks, they're not uniform at all. Just like kind of urban infill, right? Like if you look at R4, R5, C1, C2 in LA City, good luck. They're nowhere near the same, right? Why? It's because they have all these overlays. Oh, here's an ordinance. Here's a queue condition. Here's a specific plan. Sorry, now you can't build to the original zoning. You have to now build to this overlay, if that makes sense. So that also exists in R1 in LA City, which is why we did all the back work right now to fully know what you could build automated on all the lots in the city of LA. So it's fully automated for us now.
And John, when you say duplex, like I know what you're is that the right term? Or should we be calling it a duplex, or is it technically still single family with an ADU? Like so let's when you do the lot subdivision, you have two in the front and two in the back. Are
Yeah.
we calling those a duplex in the front and a duplex in the back, or is it technically like a single family home
Oh,
with an ADU?
great point. Okay, I keep throwing out duplex because remember I guess the strategy I'm trying to share with agents right now is the investment play. Is
Okay,
going around the lot split, building the
gotcha.
duplex, and then building the two ADUs. Because if the lot's big enough and the ADUs end up being 1,200, 1,400, 1,600 square feet, it's no longer, I hate calling them ADUs. If they're at
Right.
that size, they're just a unit, right? You could fit a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, like the footprint ends up growing. So anyways, that's what I'm referring to on
Okay.
duplex.
So
When you
you're
do
saying
lots,
that from an investment standpoint, the most efficient way to go about this to get in and get out as quickly as possible is to not subdivide. It's just
yeah,
to put two
yes,
duplexes on the lot. Okay.
yes,
Understood.
that should be a strategy on steroids, and it is. There's a couple of developers I can't name that are already deploying that, and they're raising
And
fund.
and
Yeah,
there's no gray area on that, right? The gray area would just be, so let's just say you didn't subdivide, you did a duplex in the front, duplex in the back. The gray, like, so that's kosher, right? But the gray area might be how long they actually have to stay there. That's what
exactly.
you can't definitively say, correct?
Exactly. So
Okay,
that's the gray area. This is black and white. Just
got
build
it.
the
Okay,
duplex and build the ADU and move on to the next property. So
okay,
that's why this is the clear-cut strategy that I'm recommending now for agents and developers. But again, you guys are the tip of the spear for the developers. So this is the opportunity to put properties in front of developers, network with more developers, and build your pipeline of deal flow using
got
this
it.
strategy next year. The last piece I was going to say is, oh, when you do a lot split and your client is a empty nester or even just not married, or with no kids, whatever their circumstances, but it's just that they're open, they're flexible, right? And they're more driven by opportunity of ROI for that property, right? Let's just say in that instance, yeah, then it's really not duplexes. You could split the lots and you could build two units that are separated. They don't have to be attached duplexes. I'm only saying an attached duplex
Mhm.
because when you deploy a 2 unit, you could still build 2 units by right, and they're two single families, not attached. They could be apart from each other. Okay. So that's a strategy that you can deploy. But why I'm saying you attach them is because then when you attach them, you could build two ADUs. That's where you get to the 4 units. That's where you could get to the most buildable square footage on that lot.
Got it. In the junior, I heard, like, I read a couple places, and I think the city then has jurisdiction over, let's just say you did 2 units on each parcel,
Right.
adding a junior ADU and getting to 6 units total on the lot. Is that a no-no at this point?
Um, in LA City, you can. We're also looking at lots and properties that can, but there's an asterisk to that, is
Okay.
because they. So if the lot is big enough and the zoning allows you, yes. Why I'm not saying that right now is because it's not prevalent in LA City zoning. But yes, you can. There is actually some lots right now with the right zoning, the right lot size. So I'm talking about 10,000 square foot plus lots where when you build the duplex, here's another thing LA City Planning told us. If you build the duplex, it's a 2 unit. Then you could activate the multifamily ADU, build the 2 units. But they also said you could design in non-living space, and that's a converted ADU or a J ADU. So think about it. You could have, I don't know if you can see my screen, but you could have
Yeah.
an attached 2-3 story townhouse, but attach it and they become a duplex, right? If that makes sense. So that this is a duplex, but then when you're designing and looking to build it, you could design non-living space or parking or whatever you want to call it. And then when you design it and when you submit it, you go, oh, this is a converted ADU. The city, LA City for sure will allow you to do that. So technically that could take you to 5 units, but I always view a converted ADU, since it's attached, as 4.5. Why? Is because, I guess when you're on market trying to rent that converted ADU, you're not going to be able to command top dollar for that converted ADU versus if it's its own unit. Does that make sense? So that's why I say count it as like 4.5.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, John. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, of course. No worries. Jonathan, any questions?
Hey, Jaeger, can you just, I didn't hear you when you mentioned it's a slippery slope. Can you just talk about that again? I just want to make sure I have that correct.
Well, it's for some of our clients, right, that have, so like I work primarily in the South Bay. So it's a lot of families, right, young families that have lived in these homes for a long time. If this gray area actually happens where, potentially developers can come in and do 4 units and they don't have to live in that property for 3 years after the construction, it's just a slippery slope, right? Because you could be looking to the right and the left of you, and then boom, like all these are going up, and you thought you were going to have a nice, cute little house next to you, and all of a sudden 4 units are being built on both sides of you, and the developer doesn't actually have to live in them. So there's a big, there's pros and cons to everything, right? I think there's a lot of pros and opportunities, and that's why I'm really appreciative for John for doing this today, because I feel like we need to be educated on like where these opportunities are. But also be able to like express the risk to our clients of what could happen. So they need to really fully understand like what could happen, directly to the left or the right or behind them with these R1 zone lots, because they probably have no idea that this could happen.
Yeah, that's great. I'm in Santa Monica, Brentwood sort of area, Palisades. And, John and I demoed one lot. I got to tell you, as an agent, I would be nervous in Santa Monica to have my name up on a sign in an R1 lot that was utilizing SB9, because I know from talking to people how they're very concerned about it. And you can imagine in the Santa Monica neighborhood how people are. So, it's interesting, and it is a slippery slope. And I agree with you, Jaeger. We got to absolutely tell people what the risk is. John, what area in LA City has taken the biggest advantage, or has taken advantage mostly of this SB9? Is it a particular area? Is it Culver City? Is it?
So yeah. Before I answer that, to speak to both of your points, our stance is the market will kind of make those solutions happen. So even though this is allowed, and even though I'm here presenting, not everyone will utilize it, and I don't see it mass adoption at the level where all of a sudden all these neighborhoods will convert. That's number one, right? And then number two is the developers that are for profit, they're also conforming to neighborhoods. So if I throw an example out, Thomas James, they build a specific product that even the neighbors, well, not all the neighbors like, I guess, right? If you're talking about certain neighborhoods, but from a design perspective, from kind of everything else, they're just modernizing what's existing in these slim parcels that up and down the coast, Manhattan Beach, they do a lot of product there, Redondo, Huntington, on down to in the Newport, Costa Mesa area. So that I think the market will really start to make determinations on which neighborhoods make sense. But that really now falls in line with your question, Jonathan, is where are we seeing the most adoption? I didn't present that build to rent strategy there just randomly. It's on purpose, because rents are stressed. The USC Lusk study, which I follow all the time, and they're pretty accurate, rents are still going up. And rents are continuing. The projection for rents with these Blackstones and Starwoods would not be investing $1 trillion in single family 2 to 4 unit spaces if they didn't see the projections of rent increasing. And that's a direct correlation to how difficult it is to build housing is why rents are getting stressed. Couple that with high interest rates and a recession, and rents are going to be doubly stressed. So this is the opportunity to pick and choose some properties to turn into rentals, right? And this adds to inventory. It does not remove. So that's a good part I like about SB9 is the institutions, when they go into the neighborhoods that that you guys were mentioning and start buying up properties, those will forever be locked as rentals. SB9, instead of that, will just densify and add more units that weren't existing there, if that makes sense. Okay, to answer your question, yes, right now, the target area of conversation that I have all the time is in and around Culver City. How, we want to utilize this even in Mar Vista, in Palms, in Westchester. Why? Is because, a lot of these companies like Snap that's out of Venice require, their remote worker or employees were called back just recently, and they have to spend 80% of the time in the office and 20% at home. So all of a sudden, you're going to get all these employees back into the offices because of the flex schedule is now actually not 50-50 or more remote. It's actually in office. So you're going to get this pickup in demand from a lot of people that moved away, have to move back in these neighborhoods and areas where there's streaming employees and tech employees. So absolutely number one has always been those areas. Silver Lake has been coming up a lot and surrounding Silver Lake. So that's also an area because there's a growing metaverse, Web3 kind of community, artistic community that is growing out of Silver Lake on the tech side. And so there's VCs moving in there and there's a lot of employees there. So Jonathan, to answer your question, the number one adoption is going to be neighborhoods that are too suburban, right? Like no one's going to go in like pockets of really, really suburban areas to build 4 units because there's no market for those for 4 units. The worst case is you go into a really suburban neighborhood, even in Newport Beach, even these higher cost areas, and all you do is just build 2 single families, if that makes sense. So if that Newport Beach street had 1 single family for years and it was built in 1950s, and then we're all talking about densifying. Well, in that neighborhood, 4 units will make absolute no sense. It won't rent high. The developer won't pencil it. What will make sense is 2 nice, modern single family homes in that.
Yeah, and I think actually, when I speak of Santa Monica, I'm really talking about South Santa Monica, right?
Right. I know.
And that's where the opportunity is. So in total, do you know how many units have been built under the SB9?
Good question. Right now, we have a really good relationship with the senior planner at LA who wrote the implementation memo and heads ADU. And so we are due for a check-in with him. But he did mention in the first part of the year, it was a handful of permits. And that's what we were concerned about, is that it would take a long process, just like ADUs, for people to get comfortable with what it is and start utilizing it, except for the early adopters. They always jump on early, very early. But a recent conversation with him, I think this was in late July or August, it was starting to pick up. And I could almost guarantee you right now, there's a lot more of these permits being submitted. Santa Monica is a different story because they outsource a lot of their planning work. So, David Martin's still in charge of planning there. So we do have to kind of reach out to get an idea of the permits going on there. But the good part and why we aim to Santa Monica is because the council at Santa Monica has been alarmed by the statistic of families leaving Santa Monica, and they want more families to want to live. And so one of the ways they could do that is to always make sure that their zoning aligns with more buildable square footage on those lots. Because if you all of a sudden go, oh, well, we have to, follow the state SB9 law, but we're only going to cap it to 800 square feet, that contradicts what they want. How could families fit in 800 square foot units? They have to follow LA's suit and allow for 2,000-3,000 square foot. And that's what we're seeing, by the way, Jonathan, is that we've run numerous reports in Santa Monica, and there is a correlation with their zoning. There's only, Anton, is there only how many different zoning zones are there in Santa Monica?
Well, there's one single family zone, but there's different ways that they go about implementing that. So it's a little bit different than LA, where LA just has different zones and one way you can implement per zone. And Santa Monica is a little bit different in that they basically have one zone and gives you different options of how you can go about building the development standards for it.
Awesome. Anton is our full-time land use analyst. So he's the one that's in the background doing a lot of these reports. But yes, we've seen a pattern in Santa Monica where the lot sizes varying from 6,000 to 8,000 square feet. Under SB9 is allowing for 3,000 square feet of buildable. Now, you can choose, Jonathan, to build a single family at 3,000 square feet, which is a pretty sizable square footage, right, for a new single family on these 6,000 to 8,000 square foot lots. And then you could, if you just build one single family, you could do an external ADU in the backyard there for 1,200 square feet, right? So now you get 3,000, 1,200 square foot ADU, you have 4,200 buildable on that lot. So that's what we're seeing in Santa Monica.
Great. I really appreciate it. I've got to run to another meeting, but as usual, John, thank you.
Of course. Thank you for
Thanks, Jaeger.
Yeah, thank you for joining, guys. And thank you, everyone else. I'm going to end it here, but I'll hold these weekly. So feel free to share these links to potential clients, investors, and I'll answer all their questions then.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you later.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.